picture.
No, it's a video. Okay, everyone say their name.
Khoren.
Scott.
Debbie.
Nicole Clement.
Catherine.
Nicole Jarrett.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the first question from Dawn Sabo.
Oh, let me turn the timer.
Enjoying masculinity. Okay. Previously, this term we talked about gender as a performance or doing gender, where an individual is constantly working to achieve masculinity or femininity through actions, gestures, adornments, mannerisms, etc. How is masculinity performed in prison?
I feel like it's like the same as anywhere else. It's just hyper masculine, like the army. You know, you want to be like a Superman.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's pretty much what it's like. They do sports and they work out in order to portray the strength and stuff of a real man.
Yeah.
And they talk about being hard versus being soft.
But like it seems like that softness is all right too, though. Like, which I wouldn't expect in jail.
No, they referred softness to brave.
Oh, they
Yeah,
did?
that's what I thought.
They said to be hard means to be more manly than the next guy who is soft and more feminine, and that was under. But anyway,
like by his perspective, it seemed like it was different. Like he didn't seem like he thought like that.
Yeah.
But he was just playing the game of
right. There was
jail.
something in here about
kind of like a sense of survival.
Yeah, there's something in here about the masculinity is something that's just kind of like done day and day. Like it's a daily thing where it's like it's a matter of just like making sure that it's consistent or something. Like
Is it one of the sport things?
Maybe, and he was talking about like saying that. Yeah, and it was something about like being like a masculine, like maybe it's something to do with masculinity. It's like not a matter of like sucking your belly and your lower voice to masculinity is something right here.
Yeah, he lost that in his 20s or something like that.
Yeah, and then he was like, it was a matter of just it being like consistent. Yeah, it's like it goes through the day. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that he points out that the idea of how you portray masculinity changes, like as you grow older and stuff. Like, because when you're younger, you want to be like the tough, the top dog kind of thing, and then when you get older, you just kind of like, I'm a man. I know I'm a man.
When I was reading it, I was like, wow, I never thought about that. Like, I was
right.
I think about it now. I was like, even as a gay man, I still try to present myself as straight because I still feel like it's not okay to be gay. Like, well, I mean, not that it's not okay to be gay, but I'm uncomfortable being gay in this area.
Yeah.
He talks about like arm wrestling and how he says it can breed a closer connection with other men. And that was like interesting to me because just to see all these overtly manly men just arm wrestling in there as a form of just like to clear their mind because I mean it's like solitude. So
and they said they were sitting there for 2 minutes.
Yeah, like that's a long 2 minutes.
I was like, oh my god,
like staring at each other and their eyes like having that really
is that
deep
their
connection.
Intimacy?
Like the arm wrestling Olympics.
And even just the way like of how they use exercise in sports is different because like you said, young men it's to like make themselves look better, but then for some like mainly like older men it's to kind of relieve the anger or they feel like they were like a failure outside in society and so they want to kind of rebuild their confidence and stuff like that. So I think depending on the person and stuff like that, the reason for doing like working out and sports and arm wrestling is different, but it is definitely like hyper masculine activities for sure.
I agree. I think we answered that question. Okay. What exactly are men trying to achieve in prison, according to the author? And how does sports softness and hardness, dominance, hierarchy, and rape figure in here?
Well, he talks about gaining a status almost.
Yeah.
And like a reputation.
Yeah, hierarchies seemed like it was a big thing.
Yeah, the idea of not somebody to fuck with.
Yeah.
And don't be snitch.
Yeah. It's almost like you need to be independent, but there's a clique that you can identify with, but you're not a part of. You're not a group.
Mm-hmm.
You're
always going to be separate from.
Yeah. It's always an individualistic thing, and I feel like I don't know. Like I wonder like what the jail system is in a different country because I feel like that might only be America.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, America, that's. Well, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was saying that in America, that's what, like, this one part where it says blacks may rape whites or vice versa in order to establish a dominant status, which is, like, probably going to happen here versus, but I mean, like, your point to, like, it being in America idea of like still being able to establish that dominant status of making blacks or whites the more dominant one by raping the other one.
Oh, God.
You know,
It's so animalistic.
right,
It's like, oh, let me hump you, and
right,
I'm your leader now.
right.
Yeah, I'm your
But they're
alpha.
so like homophobic, like I'm not gay. But it's
Yeah.
like, what do you do? What are you doing? I mean, that's what it is. I don't
Yeah.
really
Is it innate? Like, do you
I
think it's an
don't
innate
understand.
thing? Like, we
It
feel
probably
like we
is.
need
'Cause
to do it?
like me.
I remember in my biological anthropology class, we spent a great deal of that semester talking about bonobos.
Mhm.
And bonobos are like the most sexual primates ever. And they will have sex with the dude bonobos and the female bonobos. And
Whatever.
so it's like,
Kind of it, banana.
it's like whatever, whatever you can get it. And so I feel like it probably is a more animalistic thing. Like, we're sexual creatures, you know?
Yeah.
We want to have sex,
Yeah.
regardless of who it's with. If it's
Mhm.
available, it's going to be taken advantage of.
We should
Yeah.
start studies to find out if we have that innate ability, just like all the other animals.
I feel like
Yeah, I guess
it's
well,
really
if you're in that situation, it's like, well, look, I'm in here for some time, and I need to let it, let it go,
I need to
let it
release.
out.
I think it's just interesting that in prison it's mainly about domination, but then if it's like a female, like a man raping a woman, then it's like mainly about sex. But then there are feminist articles that say it's not about sex, it's about power
Yeah.
and
Like,
control
that's why
and
some
domination.
Get off to the
Right.
whole like, oh, I don't like this right now, or like the crying,
Yeah.
Right,
because-
and so I feel like sometimes it can be more about domination than about sex, especially in prison, because they don't. Maybe they are gay, but they just want to admit it, or maybe they aren't. But it's just a way, because it is a way to kind of
get intimacy without having an intimate partner.
right, and
It
also
doesn't-
it's a way to if you rape someone, that's it's not a positive
no harm, no
thing.
foul with you.
Yeah.
You know,
Or
and
nobody
so-
will
Also
mess with
establishing-
you.
Right, it
Establishing
establishes
power.
hierarchy and power and
Right.
say, I'm stronger than you, and so I am able to do this to you, and so that's a hierarchy
Yeah, and
and power.
then the act of prison rape is tied to the maintaining of status order among the maze of male groups.
I also thought it was really interesting how they talked about the victims can't even really report that they were raped.
Yeah.
Because if they do, then they're going to be killed. Like, it's just you're trying to get some sense of justice for what was done, and they can't do anything about that. And it kind of reminded me how in the military, like sexual assault within the military is like super prevalent. It happens all the time, and it's really hard, especially for women, to report the assaults, especially if they were assaulted by someone who's higher in command.
Yeah.
Like they will get demoted for
Yeah.
reporting it, like, and nothing will be done. And so that's kind of interesting how in jail and in the military, stuff like two places we think are entirely different have the same kind of system when it comes to reporting sexual assault.
And I think if you look at it the way the status is, the rape is like you're a woman. They make a woman out of you.
Yeah.
It's automatic. Like if you're a girl, you're weak, you're vulnerable. It's like cool.
I think I was told that they call them wives,
Yeah.
the people that are the ones that get raped,
Crazy eyes.
which is really demeaning for women, and saying, being a woman means that you're weak and you're submissive, and stuff like that, and it promotes those negative gender roles.
Yeah. It kind of goes into the whole you hear about how in prison, someone's gonna make you their bitch.
But like in Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
I threw my pie for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just interesting that even in somewhere like prison where it's kind of outside of society, that's where we put the people that we don't want in our society. They create their own system of hierarchy,
Yeah.
their own system of control.
There's no judicial system.
Right. They
so-
just have their own thing, but there's still power and domination, which is like the exercise thing.
Mhm.
They don't want to seem weak because they don't want
Yeah.
to be someone's wife, and so they're trying to buff themselves up. That's
Yeah.
probably something.
So this is the world ruled by men, I guess.
Because women are so
I'm just kidding.
I watched this,
the only man in the group.
I
I'll
watched
be
this
the one to say.
documentary, and it was about a prison that was run entirely by the inmates, and how it was exceptionally successful, and how it focused more on the rehabilitation aspect of it. And it was incredible seeing how the prisoners themselves would run the entire operation of being in jail. And it's really interesting because there weren't any prison guards, there weren't any like civilians in there. There's entirely no. I think the documentary is on Netflix. I forget what it's called. It's really
Let me
good.
know. I'm talking about that.
Yeah.
Like they will actually like go and they'll kill people if they start causing problems. Like that's how it's solved.
Well,
But I mean, it happens in regular prisons too. So I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
Are we ready?
Yeah, sorry.
How does prison magnify contradiction in men's lives? What are these contradictions?
She brought up earlier the homophobic thing.
Oh,
Right.
right.
How it's such a big deal to be gay, but then once you rape a man, it's not gay.
Yeah.
Well, you're a dick man.
I really like that one contradiction they put out where, I don't know if it was a contradiction where they were saying that, trying to be a man and doing, something, manly is what led them to, their freedom being taken from them by being in jail. So it's they did something, they stole for feeding for the family because that was, the manly thing to do to provide for your family. So they stole or they, robbed or something like that. That's what landed them in prison, and that's what took their freedom away from them. And so I think that was one of the contradictions. That was a great one that I thought.
I feel like I disagree with that though. Just because it's a masculine thing to do doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Not right, but
Which would
Right.
kind of contradict how we view a lot of society because it's always the man does the right thing.
Yeah.
It's the right thing to do. It's you can see a man doing it.
Or
Ideally,
the man is supposed to provide and protect, but then when they go out and do it in the way that they think they're supposed to be doing it, joining gangs to get protection and robbing to feed their kids, it's easily instant and then they end up in jail. So
That would have been the perfect thing to tie in white privilege to start with.
Just
Richard
things like the bad, murder, gangs, drugs, all those things. Robbery, kidnapping. That all seems like masculine crimes. While women, women aren't. They don't do that.
You generally don't hear
Right,
women
it's
on
women are the sneaky ones that will poison you or stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's
super passive.
Right, but then
It's passive.
the ones that really get you in jail is the masculine stuff. And if you tell men that that's how it means to be masculine, that you have to be hard, and then they go and do hard things, then they go to jail. So it's the system almost works against them by telling you to act this way, but then you go to jail if you go too far. So it's that line, I guess.
I mean, maybe that's where education. Not to say that people in jail are uneducated, but maybe that's where education comes into play. If you have an education about these social norms that are on inevitably our norm, but unfortunately our norms, I guess. I forgot where I was going with this.
So it's you see what you're supposed to be doing and what the right path to be going.
Yeah, we should be educated on what we should do instead of what we think we should do necessarily.
It's not just the means, but how you get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end, it kind of talks about the men having to hide their soft side while in prison. And so the same tragic contradiction informs men's lives in sports outside the prison walls, where structured gender inequality and sexism constrain efforts to reform gender relationships. And so it's, even though they're not out in society, they still have to portray the societal gender role that they're given, if not more so, even though they're all surrounded by men.
And the other one of using prison sports and how for them it's just kind of that's my way of I love this sport, that's what they're thinking, but in reality it's actually the social control within the prison. Therefore the cultivation of value sports and fitness activities simultaneously personal liberation and social control.
Yeah, it says that, what you said about being hard and then you going to jail, that contradiction. The other one is that sports and exercise kind of is a release. But the person there is a way to, not become a wife or whatever the reason may be. But at the same time, it releases your energy and it makes you a little more tired, and so less chance of partners fighting or, coming together to, go against the system or whatever and make them more compliant. So it's a two-part process of, I guess each get what they want, but is it really what they want, kind of thing?
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's like they're still being controlled, even though it's a release for them.
I'm still stuck on that, like, the part that was brought up about the conformity to this model for manliness can be socially and emotionally destructive. I'm like, well, why the hell are we still doing it?
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like, if we weren't, what else would we be doing?
So many better things. Like, I don't know.
You know what I mean? It's like
Endless possibilities.
masculinity and femininity is like so rooted into everything that we know. Just trying not to do it, it takes so much mental effort. Even as someone who's aware of of what it is, but just people who aren't, they probably don't even know that what they're doing is a performance.
Yeah.
It's like even if you're not performing like your own specific like general thing given to you, then you're still being labeled the other one. So if you're not being girls, like, oh, you're being a boy. And you're like a tomboy. Like, if you're not being a boy, then it's like, oh, he was kind of feminine growing up. You know, like that type of thing. It's like automatically, if you're not doing your own gender role, you're still the other one.
Yeah.
So
It's kind of like for our reading for Intro to WGS, it was talking about gender roles and how, like, pretty much that. Like, there's an entire section about how girls get called tomboys and stuff growing up, and like how that makes them feel, knowing that even though you are a girl, you're not allowed to be called a girl because you play basketball.
Right.
It's just.
I was, like, over Christmas, there was this article, not even to get off topic, but it was like a debate about if little boys should get kitchens, like, little.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And people were like, no. And I'm just like, why? Like, if he wants to be a chef, I don't really
What do you think Bobby Flay got for Christmas?
I just didn't understand why that was a woman or female performed
it's
thing.
weird
Like,
because chefs are mainly
Yeah.
male.
Yeah.
It's like a male-dominated.
but women in the kitchen,
Right.
Boys
exactly.
don't get kitchens.
right? But women
That's
being in the
interesting.
kitchen is like women's work.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like how I read an article, I think sometime last year, about how little boys don't get baby dolls growing up.
Yeah.
And it's how do you want better fathers?
Right.
Give your son a baby doll.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, what if that happens to like a single father issue now? It's like then, like they didn't have that, that feeding into when they were younger.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Because I mean, my sister has a 2-year-old, and she got him baby dolls, and he has a little bear, and it's his baby, and he takes care of it. He puts it in the stroller. She's like, I will make sure he knows how to take care of a child, and it pisses her fiance off so bad. And I'm like, can you not handle the fact that your child wants to play with another, kid? It's like it's a baby.
Yeah.
Like that's a completely
give it
normal
a
thing to
puppy.
do. Yeah, it's just he's like, no, we need to get him some trucks, and I'm like,
I don't.
he's perfectly capable of playing with trucks, just like he is a baby doll.
Mm-hmm. If anything, he's going to be more understanding in the next society.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to go on to the next question?
Sure.
On to the next.
Yeah, this one's through the white privilege one.
It is on 235.
Okay. How are privileges denied or protected? How are certain groups taught to not recognize privilege?
Like people have it easy. So.
I think the way they're taught is just like they're like to not be ignorant to the fact that there is racism, but they don't go into depth about the fact that they are privileged and that they will always be privileged throughout their life.
It's almost as if they turn a blind eye all the time. It's like ignorance is bliss when it really isn't.
Yeah.
Right. And it's probably really hard for people to acknowledge the fact that they have privilege too, because they see what's in front of them. And if things are going great for you, why would you look outside those walls?
Right.
And so it's kind of like, I think it takes a sense of self-awareness that lots of people don't have.
Yeah, it's easier to notice being oppressed. Like, I transferred here from Bennett down the street, which is HBCU, and I just felt like everything was focused around us black people being oppressed. And I'm just like, I'm not. Like, I don't, because I grew up with, like, I went to an all-white Catholic high school, all-white Catholic middle school and elementary school, so I'm like, I'm not though. Like I still feel privileged, more privileged than people, that are African American because I've had more opportunities than, a lot of other people have had. So it's just like, instead of focusing on being oppressed, how about focusing on what we've accomplished so far, what we're progressing towards. So just as how people are oblivious, white people are oblivious to the fact that they have privilege, I feel like Black people are oblivious to the fact that we can move. Yeah, like we don't have to stay stuck. And being oppressed.
Essentially, everybody that was in your classroom also had the same opportunities as
right.
you.
We're all
so.
here. I don't know. That's a whole other conversation.
Everybody who made it to college, we're
yeah,
somewhere.
Right.
It's almost like the whole idea of privilege and like oppression and power. Those who have power and those who have privilege don't realize, if they do, they don't want to recognize it. And then those who are oppressed want to be like the ones who are in power, but then instead of recognizing that they're oppressed and working to move ahead, they, let's say,
focus on the negatives.
Right, the negative, or like say, because, I'm an Asian American, I'm going to blame someone who like just came from Asia and doesn't speak English and like works at like a blue collar job and say, oh, like you guys aren't working hard enough and you're not. You guys are putting like a bad image, stuff like that, instead of working together as a collective to kind of like overthrow and challenge privilege and power. I think the whole idea of oppression is that you cause people to, instead of joining together, blame each other, which is totally messed up.
This kind of reminds me of an RA like activity that I did last year with my dorm, and we had paper clips. And we created chains to like show how privileged we were. And we went through like a bunch of different questions. If you experienced this growing up, you put 2 on or take 3 off or whatever. And it's really interesting to think of, because when we think of privilege, we typically think of race and gender, and that there's so much more that goes into being privileged. And I think she acknowledges some of those, but like I don't think it's in here, but. Like growing up with 2 parents, that's a privilege that gets you a little farther in life. And it's really interesting how much we aren't aware of that benefits us that we're not even in control of.
And she talks about how like it's how we're like feminists are so quick to say males have privilege, and what can we do or what can they do to realize and then lessen the problem, but then she relates that to how she didn't even realize that she had privilege. And if she is looking for men to lessen what they're doing, then how can she lessen what she's doing, I guess, to make everyone feel comfortable?
I feel like privilege is basically like a big bullying system. It's like literally if one person isn't on the top, or if one person wants to be on the top, one group of people, I should say, wants to be on top, like they're going to like shame all other groups in order to get there.
The high school popular parent.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, and I was thinking about it, I was like, it seems like society breaks down, or the social perspective breaks down, because, like, under certain, I guess, what was the word I'm looking for? Variables. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but, like, when you were explaining something,
it's
I was like,
intersectionality, where depending, like, your race, your gender, your income, education, everything plays a part into what privilege you have. And I think, like, in gender studies, they're about cisgender privilege, which is where, like, your genitals match your gender. And so people with that privilege, that's a privilege compared to people it doesn't match, like intersex.
But like some privileges, you don't choose to be in a privilege.
Like you don't choose that.
It.
You don't choose your what family you're born into.
Right.
And that's why I don't understand the whole hate for a group, because if you hate somebody just because you were born into a certain group, you're obviously taught it.
Right.
Yeah. That's true.
I mean, even though it's like when you, I took this other class at Dr. Cooperberg where it was like that we can't even look at like criminals the same way. Like they're, even if it's like no matter what race you are, if you're still like a criminal, like there's still like a privilege within that. It's like 1 in 4 white males with a record will get a job call back before 1 in 12 black men with a record will get a job call back. So it's like even though it's like they've been categorized as criminals or they've been in prison, they have a record, there's still that privilege between that but and then it's like, oh well, no, this person did this crime though, so it doesn't matter. It's not the same, you know, like the levels and stuff. So everything is broken down at that point. So.
Okay. Read number 2.
Yep.
Read through the list of 26 conditions of privilege. Which ones resonate with you? What are some other dimensions of privilege that need to be unpacked? Are we supposed to read through?
I was about to say, if you want to read it like out loud, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, we can go.
Okay. Do you want to start?
How many do I read?
Just one.
Just one?
Yeah, because we can just take 2 of us.
I can, if I wish, arrange to be in the company of people of my race most of the time.
Or wait, do you want to talk about each one like when we're done talking
Should
with
we do
it?
like a yes and no thing, or should we like?
I feel like that'd be interesting to do a
We
yes or no
have
thing.
20
'cause then we
minutes.
can-
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or do you want to like raise your hand if
yeah,
that
if you
one
have
like
something to say.
really?
Or if you
Yeah.
agree with it.
Or
Yeah,
you-
if you agree.
Or like if that happens to you or something.
What do we all
Wait,
say?
what?
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Shall I start over?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I can, if I wish, arrange to be in the company of people of my race most of the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If I should, are we going this way?
Sure.
Oh, if I should need to move, I can be pretty sure of renting or purchasing housing in an area which I can afford and in which I would want to live. Well, I don't have an income,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I
I'm really
don't-
broke.
I-
Like, really broke.
I was like, it's negligible. I can be pretty sure that my neighbors in such a location will be neutral or pleasant to me.
Nope.
I mean, obviously not, because like now I'm having a problem, like a quandary with my roommate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And he's a white
is this
man.
referring to like race?
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Is
Oh
it?
no.
I
Or
would assume
just
so
if it
because it's
applies
titled
to
white
you in
privilege.
any way.
I guess, yeah.
I mean, probably not until I went over and spoke and
Indiana,
introduced my, like
My old neighborhood in High Point, we were having a wedding ceremony, so there was a bunch of people in the house, and we do this like dancing thing outside of the house. And so, like somebody called the cops and saying that these certain people of certain race was having suspicious activity being done at their house. And so the cops came to this wedding ceremony at the house, and they were like, "Oh, what's going on?" And we're like, "It's a wedding.
It's
You want some food?" And then, like, that's what he told me. He was like, "Yeah, we got a call from a suspicious activity being done in this area." And I'm just like, "That's why we moved to Greensboro."
Yeah.
Like,
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
so no to number
4.
3, 4, 3.
4.
Oh, me. Oh, okay, no.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was like, neighbors is in number 3, God.
4.
So much aggression.
Number 4, I can go shopping alone most of the time, pretty well assured that I will not be followed or harassed. No!
Yeah.
No!
I have never been.
I don't know.
I have been followed.
Okay.
Like I don't even
I
think I
have
pay
been
attention
followed.
if they're following.
I feel like a bully.
You know, I'm not buying anything.
Like,
so
Black Friday.
Oh,
And I was
God.
You guys hear
I'm
about
just
you
window
on the
shopping.
basket?
I don't even know if they're
I'm
following me.
standing
I
outside.
We have like
Right.
10 different conversations.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going on an angry rant, but I was at Four Seasons Mall on Black Friday, and I was walking to go meet my friends, and this guy was standing by like the railing on the 3rd floor, and he looks over and he goes, "Oh, hey baby, how you doing today?" And I'm just ignoring him, like, you know, I don't care. And he starts following me, like, "Oh, you're not going to talk to me? Why are you not going to talk to me, baby? Come on, you know you want to say something." I turn around, like, "You can go fuck yourself."
Yeah,
He was like,
some people are
"Oh,
overconfident.
excuse you, honey." I'm like, "No, excuse you."
Yeah.
It's like, I'd never been followed in the middle of a store. Like, he followed me for like 3 minutes talking
In the
to me
mall.
in the mall. And I think one of the things that surprised me the most is that no one else said anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody interrupts
They
cat
never
calling.
say anything.
Right, nobody interrupts
No.
cat calling. They won't.
It's the most frustrating thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever had that happen.
Is that cat calling and like racial following has happened to me?
That's every day.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been followed. One time I went shopping with
Sorry.
one of my black
I
friends,
don't know what to say.
and then they started following us.
Actually, I was following.
I mean,
Oh,
I've
it
never been
happens.
followed before, but and then she
Right.
was like, I was like, "This has happened to you?" She was like, "Every single time I go to the store, they will
Right.
follow me."
Oh, it's
And-
not. I've
And
never
so
had
she
that.
was like, and so places that you don't like, they don't have little like bags or carts to put her
Right.
stuff in. She'll like openly hold stuff around and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah.
And so she told me about it, and I was like, I just hold things in my arms and just walk around.
But, like,
So,
So like that was like
like
a privilege thing because
Nordstrom's.
I've
or,
never
like, I don't know if you guys had Hex here. It's like
Yeah,
New York
Hex.
Hex.
That's where amazing.
I was like shopping. This had to be like 10th grade or something. We were like shopping for like just trying on prom dresses. No one wore prom yet. And they didn't have carts, and so, like, we took all these dresses back there and tried them on and then put them back. And the lady saw us, like, do you need help and everything? And then we left, and these, like, 2 men, just regular clothes, just followed us and were like, we need to check your bags. And just, like, really talking to them because you're not checking mine. So then they're like, well, we're going to have to call the police. I said, call the police. I'm, like, probably, like, 14 years old. Like, call the police. I don't know what is going on. Like, I'm oblivious to the fact that it's because we're both black and, we didn't buy anything and we're by ourselves. So, my mom called me.
I would dare you try to
I was
my
like,
lip gloss
first of all, you can't check anything of mine. You're not even in uniform, number one. Number two, no. I'll fight you. I mean, there's just nothing that's going to happen. You're not going to check my bags for no reason. And then my mom called me. They got fired.
I saw this slide, and it was a young black man, and he was buying himself of, like, a cashier, like, following and peeking around corners, making sure he's not stealing stuff.
Oh.
And I think that was the first time I'd ever, like, really thought about the fact that, wow, like, that doesn't happen to me because I'm white. And it was just kind of a really, like, moment. It's like, that's insane.
Yeah, in middle school, it was like that. Like, we would have 2 gas stations next to my middle school, and, like, when we would go to the gas station, like, right after school to get something to eat to go back to school or something like that, they would be like, take off your book bags. Like, thinking that we were going to steal something. It was like, way to assume that we're immediately going to steal something instead of paying for what we're going to get. Like,
and that's probably like an age thing too.
Yeah,
like,
you're putting us
a
in
young
a
group of
box,
guys.
so.
Or even in
like,
school,
when you check my sleeves
when in school you need like little hall passes to get to places.
Yeah.
I was
check my
just,
pockets though.
I had a hall pass,
too.
but I wasn't like flaunting it. I just had it in my book bag and I was walking. The principal walked by me and he was like, hey, how are you doing? And then behind me was this black guy, and he like his tone immediately changed because they missed your hall pass.
Oh.
And I was like,
no, because you didn't ask
and
the girl in front of
so
me.
as soon as so he shows him his hall pass, and then we both go to the library. Even at the library, you have to like show your hall pass. The librarians don't say anything to me. He walks in, both of them get up, and they're like, "We need to see your hall pass."
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, "Are you
too
kidding
old
me
for
right
such
now?" It was
situations.
ridiculous. So many times like that happened to me when you're not supposed to leave campus, and stuff like that, and you have to have like a pass or something.
Mm-hmm.
I had my book bag on because I had to leave early to pick up my brother. They didn't ask for I passed by 2 teachers and they didn't say anything to me. There was a black girl behind me. They asked her, like both of them asked her, and even when she showed them the hall pass, they were like, "We need to talk to your parents," or like, "Are you sure that you should be leaving right now?" And they kept questioning her, and then I was like, does this happen to you all the time? And she was like, yeah, I basically have to make sure that I leave at the exact time that the hall pass says that I can leave, or else they won't let me leave, even if it's like 5 minutes early because it's not the time or whatever.
That's
I just feel like
And
you
I was
Why are you gonna take a time? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
it was
you
ridiculous.
can't time that.
I think that's the whole thing of privilege. Like, I didn't realize it until I witnessed other people or like my friends telling me like first-hand experiences and stuff like that. Because although I am an ethnic minority, I think
what you
even
ate
with that
last night
minority,
3 times.
there's like
You know what I'm saying? What did you
Yeah.
eat last night?
Yeah.
Tacos. Like, because you screwed. That hall pass don't mean nothing to me at that point.
Are we on number 5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can turn on the television or open to the front page of the paper and see people of my race widely represented.
Well,
Yeah.
BET? I mean, what channel? I mean,
When you say
Sorry.
represented,
Majority of
majority,
the
like news.
yes. Wait, say it again. Say
when you
it
say
again.
represented, you mean a positive light?
Oh, that's valid.
Oh,
That's valid.
yeah.
Let me tell you a thing.
I mean, I don't know, this way. I mean, like, there's like these like Indian doctors who like came from India. They're, like the dude who's like now the White House doctor or something, the U.S. surgeon doctor now or something. He's
Oh, the new
Indian.
one.
He's like this 34-year-old Indian guy. He was all over the front page. But then there's just also like this guy who got stabbed because they claimed he was a terrorist and it was a brown person like me. So it's like I don't know. It kind of goes both ways. Like I
feel like, especially when they're trying to represent minority racial groups, they try to like over. It's like we're gonna like make this character exceptionally like just I don't know.
Trying to fight every standard.
Like with Scandal and like
But yeah, remember-
How to Get Away with Murder. Like they have very strong black female lead characters, but they kind of push the fact that they're black in your face instead of trying to make it like, normal.
Yeah.
Like it's
They
like
do
it shouldn't be a big deal that she's black, but it is because they don't represent strong female black characters and
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
But it's
I think
just,
that's just how
right.
Shonda Rhimes is.
She's-
She just presents.
Oh,
I
she
can
got
have
her,
my
her
black
Twitter was
women.
hilarious.
You know,
Somebody complained about her not doing more gay, not having gay scenes or something like that. They're like, why do you have gay scenes in all your shows or something like that? She was just like, you weren't invited to Shondaland. Bye, Felicia. # one love. I was like, yes.
And it's just funny because even when you try to, incorporate everyone, they don't. It's like white or black. There's no Indians or like no Asians.
Right.
There are
Yeah.
no Native
no
Americans.
in-between.
Native Americans are like totally non-existent. Like they are.
And
There's
they're
no
the
one
most,
that's savages.
like, I feel like one of the most.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
they
know
did
what
it
I
to
mean?
Aaron Hernandez though when that the football NFL dude or whatever, like something about like him like hitting his girlfriend or something. The first picture they posted up of him is him holding a gun. I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
yeah.
Like the first picture is like, yeah, this is Aaron Hernandez and he's like holding a gun or something like this. I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like let's just go
I
ahead and
feel like
make him the
that's
most
just
violent.
politics.
Yeah, let's just make him the most violent Hispanic man now and like a Latin king, like in this episode of like CNN.
Okay. When I am told about our national heritage or about civilization, I am shown that people of my color made it what it is.
Oh, yeah.
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 What?
I was like, we are
So
European
when
Americans,
you're
essentially.
taught about our history,
As far as like civilization here,
yeah.
like
no.
wait, so when I'm told about our national
I was
heritage,
like,
okay, so
it's gonna be
national
different for
heritage
us.
in the U.S. is shown people.
That
Oh,
was like-
so okay, so like
so white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
American American.
George
Okay.
Washington.
yeah.
All the
Founding
presidents except for
fathers.
the 44.
Columbus,
Yeah.
he messed it up for me and everybody in my country. Trying to
But
find
really.
India. The hell you at? Hell you at?
Where are you at?
Where are you at, Columbus?
He totally went the exact opposite way that he was supposed to go. Like,
Yeah.
he was just an idiot.
It makes you wonder though.
Oh,
If Columbus actually did find India, would he have done the same thing to India? Like, would he have just like suppressed them into like slavery? You know what I'm saying? Like, would you have
Yes.
done that?
You would have.
No, because we wouldn't let that happen. Have some curry powder in
I
your
know.
face, boo. Get out.
I know.
Take a little boat back. You and your boat can go back.
This is getting mildly racist. Oh my gosh, I'm stuck.
Let's move on to the next question because we have 8 minutes.
Okay.
We only got through 6.
Not even, but
Yeah.
Oh wait, can I just say I like number 26 because it's I can choose blemish, cover, or bandages in flesh color and have them more or less match my skin.
No.
I don't know. That doesn't apply to me.
Because I
They
first
barely had
realized
shades for me.
this bandage problem
Yeah.
when in the freshman orientation class that I took where we did like a privilege game where for each thing, if it applies to you, take one step forward. If it doesn't, you take
Yeah.
one step back.
Oh, like
And when they
the
said
line.
the bandage thing, I was like, it does not match my skin tone at all. And even with makeup, I have to mix 2-3 different foundations together, and it still isn't my color.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like,
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
It kind of reminds me of it was a couple months ago. There's a lingerie company that's making skin toned bras and underwear for black women, and it made me really excited because you think of nude underwear and you think white, like
Yeah.
white, like,
That
it's gonna match
beige-ish,
me,
yeah.
yeah. And so it's really interesting to see how we're trying to like overcome the concept of the nude coloring.
Do you think they're still going to call it nude, or is it going to be us, like
Black
a
nude,
hyper,
white.
yeah.
hyper name for
I have no idea.
African
I-
American nude colors? Or something like,
I feel like these
Hey.
lists, like these things, are to like very, very oppressed African. Because 25 is like if my day, week, or year is going badly, I need not ask each negative episode or situation whether it has racial overtones. If I get an F, I'm not saying is it because I'm black. Like I don't say it's because I'm black. Like that's why I think it's somebody who's very oppressed or
Yeah,
just
I don't do
hasn't
that.
even.
I mean,
yeah.
maybe in the airport I'll do that. But like, not, not like day
Yeah.
to day. But if I'm in the airport, I'm like, oh, you looking at me? Like I see that right now,
Right.
like right here.
Hunter, how do these arguments presented by McIntosh dismantle the myth of meritocracy? Meritocracy. Okay.
merit, like acting on merit, like acting character, something like that. I don't know.
So is it
Like how a person is. I don't remember.
What's the question again?
Oh, ask Google.
Google it.
How did these arguments presented by McIntosh dismantle the merit
Okay,
Is that
Google.
just that?
Define meritocracy. Okay, so the government or holding of people by
So wait, what's
or power by people selected on the basis of their ability, or a society governed by meritocracy, plural noun meritocracy.
So the myth that
Yeah.
that's how it works in our society.
Which is that's
I
true.
would like to think that that's how it works, but I feel like the answer that we're supposed to give to this is the fact that that's not, because
Yeah.
race plays a part of it. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, I
Because
suppose it
there's
does,
white
but I-
privilege.
Yeah.
I don't know how to answer this question.
I think that's what it is. It is a myth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like a true or false question.
Yeah.
True. And because clearly there is that hierarchy based on like race, economic status, education, and all this,
Right.
where it's not just based on merit. Where if you're good at something, then you're gonna be higher. You know what I mean? Like I think at the first time I really experienced the whole gender thing was because when up until like sophomore year of college, I wanted to be an actress, but then I realized the chance of that happening, no matter how good I am, is slim because the only characters I'll be able to play is a minority best friend or the stereotypical nerd Asian or something
Yeah.
like that, and I'm like that's not a true depiction of who I am as a person, as a human being.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the first time I realized it. And if it was based on merit, if I'm good, I'd be able to get whatever role. You know what I mean? And so it's definitely a myth for sure.
It's like I saw this interview with Mindy Kaling. Is that how you say her last name?
I think
I don't know how to say it. But
Is it her?
is what?
she's Indian, right?
Yeah. I was like, literally.
Oh,
So that
thank
was-
you. I didn't know that.
Yeah, her stage name is Colleen. It's like shortened. It was like,
That's right. But it was talking about like she was being asked how she got so successful. And she's like, well, when I'm going into a situation, I imagine myself as a successful heterosexual white man, and that's how she gets shit done. Is
Yeah.
imagine yourself as a white man, and that sucks
Confidence.
because
Yeah.
she is really good at what she does, and she shouldn't have to
right.
imagine herself as being something
Yeah.
different.
But I mean, she found a way to cheat the system, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, she did it,
Yeah.
but it's kind of sad how she had to.
In rereading this question, it was like, how does it dismantle the myth of meritocracy? I feel like it dismantles it because, like, as we asked the question, we all didn't agree with it. Like, that's your answer, I guess. You know?
Yeah.
You want to read number 4?
Okay. Distinguish between earned strength and unearned power.
Oh.
Unearned power is like I said, being born into it, almost like privilege. Obviously, just you want to
There we
go into depth. Privilege.
Pretty much says power from unearned privilege can look like strength when it is in fact permission to escape or to dominate. So,
But not all of the privileges on my list are inevitably damaging.
Skip this question.
I think we did.
Number 5. Much of the analysis is about race. How might you unpack the invisible privilege knapsack for gender? How might you unpack the invisible knapsack for gender?
well, there's the fact that there's the pay gap. You know,
Oh, yeah.
if I go in to interview for a job with
But it's so many sense.
someone who 77 cents to the dollar, that yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah. I
But
think
there's
There's-
street
there's
harassment. We
plenty
talked
of
about
things.
that.
Everything we've talked
Yeah.
about.
I think if you're a man, you're more likely to get a job than you're a woman, or you're more likely to get paid higher than if you're a woman.
Right.
So that's male privilege for that.
You'll move up faster in promotions.
Even if you're doing the same job.
Lots of stuff.
I feel really guilty for skipping number 4. It's like in my brain.
Well, because I
But
kind of
it-
feel like we based,
we-
like,
yeah.
we touched
Yeah, because we talked about how
like in all the previous
power
questions.
is privilege and it's given to you, but strength, you earn it through merit, which is a myth.
Right.
Because that's not how society is.
Yeah.
Dr. Honeycutt. That was number 4.
It was question and answer.
Do you guys want to move on to
The
sixth
last
one?
one.
Yeah, I was about to say 5's already answered.
Why is it not enough to simply change our attitudes about race and other key demographics? What needs to happen to redesign our social system?
I kind of don't like how
Where do
that's
you work
worded.
in?
It's we need somebody that's on the opposing team on your team in order for you to have a one-up, essentially. You know, like say so the blacks are trying to become less oppressed, like move up in the bracket of this hierarchy. So what they need to do is obviously get a white person in their group so they can advance, which sucks.
Yeah.
Like, because it's only oppressing them more.
I mean, that's kind of how feminism started too. Like,
Mhm.
you had to have the upper class white women.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they weren't there, it wasn't gonna happen. And
I say that thing's the same with every problem. Like, same with like gays. Like, if gays want it to be better, they need a straight person on their team.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
but you like in doing that, you're oppressing the group again.
Yeah.
You're saying they can't do it on their own.
Yeah, it's almost making them
If it's-
more inferior.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, like that. See, like for me, like for the LGBTQIA community to have like, you know, the gay community for that to have like, I mean, that wasn't like specific to race, which I think that's why like a lot of like each specific race had to like battle that because there's like a, you know, like India, like South Asian community is like the second largest gay community, you know,
Right.
it's really populated over there. So it was, you know, like they're not saying that, but like race in itself, like I think along with having somebody opposing to be on that, like I'm saying this for Indians specifically because like we have like Indian on Indian crime, like Indian on Indian, like I mean we don't let Hindus and Muslims marry, we don't let Gujaratis and Punjabis marry, we don't let North Indians and South Indians marry. There's like differences of religion within the religion that we have. Like Hinduism is broken down. Like I mean we have like a million gods and each one prays to each one of them differently, and each like little sub, you know, country in India has differences that are so deeply rooted that we'll never be able to break. We'll never be able to come together, India as a whole, to like be like, oh, like Indians in that country over there, outside of India, is like being like treated like this, like they're being like called like terrorists or something like that. So it's not like, you know, I think like, we're not worried so much about the others as much as we're worried about ourselves, type of thing. So
It's
I think,
almost
like,
as if. Sorry, not to go off.
you know, that was it. I was gonna say, but that's basically why race in maybe this part would be like not able to be the equal. Like we can't not look at race. What was it? Not something about not simply that.
I feel like changing the attitude though would help a lot. Like that's a big step that could, like, it's like a domino effect. Like if everyone just kind of viewed race as something that it's like non-existent, really. I mean,
It seems like
it would, everything else would fall into place.
Right.
'Cause I don't know.
Yeah.
That just kind of bothers me that that's like diminishes the fact that changing the attitude would be a big difference.
it seems like the progressive way is not the way to go. It seems like something really bad needs to happen to each group in order for them to rise up from the ashes like a phoenix, you know? Because I'm trying to relate to this with something else that's happened in history because like we can't. I don't know how to do it though. Like I would have to really think about it.
I think there's just a need for like a collective for each group, and then everyone as a whole. So you know, like I guess white community is already privileged, but even within that, it's based on
Another
education and you know
status,
right status, money, you know, all that stuff. And so all these groups need to come together, and then so it'd be like the poor whites and then the rich whites, and then come together, and rich whites already together, and then just be whites, and then be blacks, and then come together and be black and white, and like blue and purple, and everyone like a little rainbow.
Yeah.
Because they say we're a melting pot, but we're not. We're like individual pieces of a salad that are just flopped there and not
Thrown
coming
in.
together.
Yeah.
Congregated.
But I
Not
think
a tossed salad yet.
I think education is a really key point, and especially educating the younger generation.
You're becoming aware.
Right. I think we're a lot better than we were, but we just still have.
I feel like once we got a black president, everybody became aware of like,
things
okay,
are
yeah,
Yeah.
things are changing. Like,
Yeah.
If we stop trying to divide, stop trying to have hierarchies within
Yeah.
everything, then maybe
It's-
we'd
it's-
like, yeah,
It's like a big circle, and like if you dismantle one piece of the circle, it's just gonna fall apart.
right.
Yeah.
And like I feel like that's all we need to do, which we're starting to do, obviously.
And I think
And, like, it just
people in
takes
power
time.
are scared of that.
Yeah.
Right.
That one string will unravel and then everything will fall
the ball will just.
and they'll lose power.
It's the whole like 1% thing, like that 1%. Even though it's just 1%, they are able to control and make sure everything stays separated
It's
for their
basically
benefit.
those who pay for the advertising, the people that pay for those certain people that choose to make the advertisement that way.
Yeah.
Like it's like the people that have the money are literally the ones that are controlling the way we think.
Yeah. And
But I feel like
really all.
I feel like each race won't want to admit it, but I think like each race in itself has their own privilege. Like I mean, there's a lot of different. And the Indians who become the doctors, like they're clearly the ones who are like on the privilege list right there. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sitting here like broke, like in college, trying to get to where he's at, and I can't. Like, but I mean, yeah, there's like privilege within each race. I feel, because I think like we won't want to break that, because if we try to like be equal with everybody else in that race, and we're more privileged than the other ones, and we're trying to get more privilege. I'm trying to, it's not.
There's no identity then.
Yeah.
You're nothing but like it's almost making life gray.
Right.
It's almost making everybody dress the same, be the same.
No rainbow
and you won't have
here.
to worry about.
No rainbow.
Okay, that was everything.
Yay!
Yay! We need like a final pose. It's gonna be the cover page.
Wait.
You
Oh.
can